All right, good morning, guys. Good morning. Before we get started, Mrs. Swinbeck from the APTO would like to just say a couple words very briefly, okay?
Good morning, all. I hope you all enjoyed the junior post-prom party that happened last weekend. I'm here to tell you that it is not too late to donate. If you had planned to get your donations in, we would gladly still accept them. And also, it's never too late to join the APTO if you'd like to join us in our mission. Our next meeting is Tuesday, June 5th. We will be having board elections. So if you're interested in being on the APTO, please let us know. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Julie. All right, guys, good morning. My name is Mrs. Connery, the Director of Guidance here at Algonquin. Before we get started, I'm going to ask everybody to turn their phones off. Please silence your phones, and during the presentation, please keep your phones away and give us your full attention. So good morning. Today we're going to talk about what you can be doing over the summer in preparation for the fall admissions process. Before we start covering all of that material, I would first like to take just a moment to introduce all the counselors here at Algonquin. Just in case I know many of you probably are aware of who the counselor is that works with your student, but it's always nice to be able to put a face with a name. So over here on the left, we have Jason Lassard. Next to him is Dave Breglio, Linda Hutchins, Andrea Hotchkin, Becca Haberman, and Kate Mulcahy. And so as many of you are aware, Ms. Hutchins has assumed Mr. Brosnan's caseload for the year, and she's been actively working with many of the students, introducing herself to them. As well, Ms. Mackey had her baby. She had a beautiful little girl, Thea, and we're really excited to have a new guidance baby joining us. And so for the remainder of the year, the counselors, let's keep it down, guys. For the remainder of the year, the counselors will be working directly with Ms. Mackey's caseload to help you kind of work through some of your list and go over some final things before you head off for the summer, okay? Okay, so today we're going to talk about how you can use your time over the summer most effectively. Because as we know, life during the school year gets busy. You're involved in athletics, extracurriculars, taking a rigorous course load. Maybe you're working, occasionally helping out at home, right? There's a lot that has to be done during the school year. So we hold this presentation to provide you with the information, so that you can use the extra time that you have during the summer to prepare for the fall admissions process. Because what we hope to do by giving you this information is to reduce your overall stress. All right? We don't want everybody coming back stressed out because of the college process. All right? If you use your time wisely, you'll be in great shape in the fall. Now, I encourage all of my students to take a couple weeks off, because I don't know about you guys, but by the end of the school year, we're all pretty tired. So taking a couple weeks just to kind of recharge, take a little mental break, and then after a couple weeks on a rainy day, pull out your workbook that we'll be sending out to you guys via email. And then start to kind of slowly work on some of the forms and, draft an essay, open up a Common App account, all right? The counselors will be going over all of that. They'll be talking about the Common App. They'll be talking about your essay, teacher recs, guidance counselor recs, and testing. Okay, so we have a lot to cover today. One of the most important things you can do if you have not already been doing so, and that's understandable because life is busy, is continuing to visit schools. Getting on those campuses and experiencing the campus is key in helping you to kind of finalize your list, to figure out what schools are you going to apply to. We'll be encouraging students to kind of come back in the fall with a list of 6 to 8 schools that they'd like to apply to, all right? And I think the best way to go about doing that is really to visit. Because oftentimes students will be coming down and they'll be talking to us and asking us what we think about a campus. And to be honest, our preferences are very different than your preferences. We can actually speak to programming and majors and what the school has to offer from that perspective. But making the decision regarding, a school really is all about your personal preferences and the feeling you get when you visit that school. So the campus visit is key to helping you kind of finalize your list. In the fall, when you come back in September, we'll be recalculating your GPA, all right? And that will be the GPA that we will send to colleges. The GPA will include final grades for every course that you've taken here at Algonquin in grades 9, 10, and 11. Your class is the first class where we will not be reporting any rank, all right? We will upload the new GPA a couple weeks into the school year because we want to make sure that grades are accurate, and if we have any incomplete grades that we've closed those up. We want to make sure the information we're providing to you is accurate. Next year, we already have our calendar kind of planned out in the fall. So we have a senior college planning night. That will be September 12th. That same week, the counselors will be meeting in workshops with students, and the following week, we'll be having a second workshop. So what we will do is we'll introduce you to a lot of the forms today, and then in the fall, we'll pull all of the pieces of the puzzle together. Through Naviance, we'll be submitting all of your documents electronically. We'll show you how to request teacher recommendations. We'll talk about, submitting, requesting transcripts, okay, and sending test scores. So we have Junior College Planning Night for Parents September 12th. We'll have a college fair, and hopefully we have like 100 colleges again coming on October 2nd. And then we'll have a financial aid night October 11th for all of the parents. And we have somebody come in from the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority to actually go through the entire financial aid process for parents, okay? So we have everything well mapped out, and we will guide you through the process. And I just want to remind everyone that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You have to start now, slowly work through different things, and then in the end, in the fall, you'll find that you won't be stressed if you're kind of chunking things. Okay? So at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Hodgkins so she can talk about testing. Yes. It's kind of annoying that it keeps falling. There you go.
All right, hi everybody. All right, so Mrs. Connery said, I'm talking about testing. I'm sure this is the least favorite, most stressful, painstaking, emotionally exhausting part of this whole process. The good news is you'll probably be done early fall with this, okay? So by this time, most of you guys have taken the SAT or the ACT, or perhaps you're scheduled to take them in June. Those tests are coming up pretty quickly. So just to review, SAT and ACT, they're both standardized tests that colleges use interchangeably. They're both curriculum-based. SAT is evidence-based reading, writing. There's a math section, and there's also an optional essay. The ACT, math, reading, English, they also have a science section, and then there is an optional essay. So I mentioned the optional essay. So yes, it's optional. However, we encourage students to take that essay at least one time in case one of your colleges requires that. Okay, so most of you will be covered by taking just the SAT or ACT. Some of you might need to do another test, though, and that would be the SAT subject tests. If you do have subject tests, you're going to find that as you are looking at your colleges. It's important that you are researching the requirements for each college, because if you need to do a subject test, you're going to need to make sure you're registering for those. If you have questions about what subject test you should take, we're here to help you with that. Majority of colleges do not require the subject test, so please take a look at that before you spend the money and time just taking subject tests. So next year, most of you will take the SAT or the ACT again. Typically, our seniors do that early fall. So August, October, those are SATs. There's also November. However, I'm mentioning the August and October because if you plan on applying early to any colleges, typically those deadlines start November 1st. Those scores for August and October will be ready to be sent. With the ACT, if you choose to take that in the fall, we would recommend the September just because those scores will be ready for November 1st as well. So I'm not saying you should take both of these tests again. It's a lot of time and money spent. What I'd recommend is if you take both of those tests this spring, SAT and ACT, compare your scores, okay? And then take your preferred test. So if you do best on SAT, disregard ACT and spend some time this summer doing some more prep for SAT. All right, so test dates and registration deadlines for the fall exams. Parents, you do have a workbook that is on page 2 and 3. Students, you will be able to access the workbook online. We will be sending that shortly. I'm mentioning these test dates, the registration, because those are very early in terms of signing up for August. You'd have to do that by July 27th. So that's before we come back. And same thing with ACT. If you're taking the September, that's going to be August 3rd. So you're going to want to make sure you are registering early. One, Algonquin fills up pretty quick, okay? So you'll get a seat here at Algonquin if you register early, and you're avoiding those late fees. I was on College Board yesterday, and it looks like you can actually already sign up for August and October for SAT. So if you are, as I mentioned, if you are taking those SATs early, same thing with ACTs, those scores will be ready for you to send. So last thing I want to talk about is sending scores, and please listen carefully because we have not covered sending scores yet in previous workshops. So it's your responsibility as the student to have your test score sent directly from the testing agency to the college. So if you want SAT scores sent, you're going to do that directly online through College Board. For ACT, that's going to be directly through your ACT account, okay? So if you are taking the August SAT and you have 4 colleges that you want your scores sent to, register. When you register, we'd like you to indicate that on your test registration. And I say this because College Board and ACT, they will give you 4 free score reports if you indicate the schools you want to have those scores sent to at that time of registration. Otherwise, as you know, College Board, ACT, everything costs money. So you can get those 4 free reports if you indicate the colleges at that time of registration. Otherwise, you're going to be paying. College Board right now charges $12 per score report, ACT $13. So basically, you're going to be spending quite a bit of money if you don't use those 4 free reports. So in our senior workshops, as Mrs. Connery said, we're going to be doing those in September when we come back. We're going to go over the sending the scores again, but I think the biggest takeaway is it's going to be your responsibility to have those scores sent. We, in guidance, we have access to your scores through Naviance. However, anything sent from us in terms of scores is not considered official. Okay, so that has to come directly through College Board and ACT. Another thing is you want to make sure you are sending your scores as early as possible. So even if you're applying to colleges and you're like, okay, I have a January deadline, but you know you're going to apply, send those scores early, okay? What happens is colleges, they will start adding things to your file. So the second they get something, whether it's a teacher recommendation, maybe it's a counselor recommendation, your transcript, or maybe it's your test scores, they will start that file for you and add things as they come. So I've talked a lot about testing, but before I move on, I do want to say that standardized tests are just one component of students' application, okay? So essay, recommendations, all your activities you've done, you'll be putting together a resume. All that is highly considered during the application process. Standardized test scores for many schools are actually not required. Parents, on page 4 of your workbook at the bottom, page 3, I'm sorry. On the bottom, there is a website, fairtest.org. So that will give you a list. When you go onto that website, there's over 1,000 colleges. that do not use standardized tests for a substantial number of their applicants. Okay, so that list will include many top-tier liberal arts schools, national universities, regional universities, and colleges as well. So although these colleges do not require the test scores for admission, I would like to mention that you will need to, some of these colleges may require those test scores if you plan on applying for merit scholarships. Same thing for athletes if you are planning on competing at the D1 or D2 level. You will most likely have to send your test scores as well. Okay, so that's it for testing. I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Breglio, and he's going to get us on to the website. High five.
All right, so my section is we're going to look at the guidance website. I'm going to highlight a couple things on there for you guys to browse next time you are on our guidance website. And then we're also going to get onto Naviance and look through a couple important sections together. So Mrs. Hodgkins is going to navigate for me on the computer. So the guidance homepage, which was going to be under academics, then the guidance tab. First thing we always want to look at is the guidance events section. So that's going to be right under that picture, upcoming events. So if you have questions about what's around the corner, guidance related, especially for next year with workshops and maybe financial aid night, upcoming college fair, if you go on to the guidance website, upcoming events, you'll be able to find those. There's a bunch of different sections on the guidance website that is always useful to look through and just orient yourself with it. So one of them is the useful links tab, which is going to be on the bottom left-hand side. The useful links tab is going to talk you through walk you through different college search options beyond just Naviance. It'll have different college information websites. There's also going to be some financial aid and scholarship websites associated or linked to the useful links section on the guidance webpage here. Next we're going to look through is the job posting and community service section, which is on the left-hand side as well. When we have community members reach out to the CRC and post for volunteer internship opportunities, job opportunities from local businesses, they send them to us at the school, and we have the binder going in CRC with updated jobs and internships, but we also post them on the website here. So if that's something you're interested in looking into, seeing if there is a good fit for you for this summer or for maybe next year, get onto the webpage here, look through the link section, and see if there's anything that you're interested in. From there, we're going to look at the testing info. The testing info is back on the guidance homepage, and it's going to be on the top right-hand side. So all the links to the testing info is going to be exactly what Ms. Hodgkin just walked you through. So there's going to be a College Board link for the SATs. There's going to be a link to get to the ACT website if you're going to sign up for that test. They mentioned fairtest.org is the website where you can find schools that are SAT, ACT optional, and like she mentioned, there's over 1,000 of those. So if you're looking for information strictly for testing purposes, that testing link on the guidance website would be the spot to go. So from now, we're going to go onto our Naviance website, and there's the link to Naviance right through the guidance homepage. So the Naviance, and we've been on Naviance for a couple years now, the Naviance that you guys seen has changed. There's a new format. Hopefully the layout that they came up with is a little more user-friendly. So when you get on it, you're going to have to browse a little bit to reorient yourself with it. When we do workshops next year, too, we'll walk you through every single section so you are comfortable with it. But the first thing to look at is the homepage and the announcements that's listed right on under junior year planning there. And through that announcement, we're talking about letters of recommendation, which Mrs. Mulcahy is going to touch upon next. So that's something right on the homepage. You sign into Naviance, check that out. On the top right-hand corner, there's a messages section. We will be emailing you to your Naviance page with updated guidance information. So if you see something in the mailbox there, click it, read through it, make sure that you have all the upcoming information. So after doing that, next time you're on Naviance, what we want you to do is go to the About Me link. Under My Account, we want you to update yours and your parents' email addresses. you click on account, Andrea. About me. There you go. There it is. So under About Me and then the account, there is a part where you can update your email address, and then you update your parents' email address. This is important because we're reaching out to you through Naviance, giving you updated information. And this in senior year, we give a lot of information. Stuff is coming out weekly. So if there's an email that you check frequently, that's the one that should be listed up on Naviance, and the same with your parents. So if your parents are getting the same information that you are, everyone's going to be on the same page. Also through the About Me section, there is your GPA is going to be down at the bottom. So the GPA that is on your Naviance now is not the GPA that we're sending out to colleges. The GPA that is going to be sent out to colleges is going to be the end of your junior year GPA, okay? So at the end of this year, like Mrs. Connery talked about, we will be posting new GPAs. That's the GPA that will be sent out to colleges. That's the GPA that you're going to be able to use to look through all the scattergrams that are on the college website. So we're next going to go through the career link, which is up top. The career link is something we did during our sophomore year. This is the option where, so if you click on careers, and then there's going to be the do what you are, and then there's going to be the career interest profiler. These are two sections that you did sophomore year. It's going to give you a chance to review what careers got linked with your interest or your passion. So if you are maybe struggling with coming up with a college major, or you're still in between what you want to study or a potential job after you graduate, go back through, read the Do What You Are again, look through the career interest profiler, see if any of that sparks an interest for you. We can reset it if you want to take it again, if you don't feel like the results were accurate. But that's something to review. Again, like I said, you have a free hour over the summertime. Get onto the career link section. Next, we're going to look through the college link. And then we're going to go over to the colleges I'm thinking about. So this section is where you're going to keep an updated list of schools that you are potentially interested in. So this section may have colleges that you posted, colleges that your parents maybe chose for you and put on this page. There may be schools that your guidance counselor put on this page, okay? So as you are visiting colleges and as you're researching colleges online, if there's a school that's on the colleges I'm thinking about page that you're no longer interested in, you should be taking that off. We want to start to shrink that list down, especially get into your senior year. Like Mrs. Connery said, we want to come up with that final list that is closer to 6 to 8 colleges that you've researched, that you've potentially visited, that you're comfortable sending in applications to, and that starts to the colleges I'm thinking about page. So if you can go on there, review these schools, shrink down that list a little bit, that's definitely something useful to do. On the colleges I'm thinking about page, they're going to have information about what type of applications there is. So is it a Common App school? What are the earliest deadlines available? How do you fit into the college compared to former Algonquin students? So there's a Compare Me tab where you can click on Compare Me and it'll bring up past Algonquin students who've applied to this college. Were they successful? What were their SAT scores? What were their GPAs? Finally, for the college section, there is a college admissions counselor visits that we do each year, starting in the fall time. To get to the college admissions visits, you're going to click on the college tab and then click on home. And then there's going to be a college visits at the bottom right hand of the page. Right now, there's not going to have many listed, but come fall time, there's going to be updated college reps that are coming into the school, and usually it's daily. So these college admission reps are people who will be reading the applications for the potential college you're interested in. They will be able to explain the school in more detail, talk to you about upcoming programming, something maybe they're excited about with new dorms or a new academic building, but they're going to be able to talk in depth about that college you're interested in. So if you have that college on your list and you see that that college rep is coming to the school, it's important to schedule a time to come down to the CRC and listen to their presentation. In order to do that, we're asking you to fill out a college rep pass. So the college rep pass, if you go to our homepage of Naviance, down on the left-hand side, there's a document resources, and then you click on college rep visits. So this pass is something you're going to print out, and you're going to give it to your teacher ahead of time, asking them if it's okay if you miss class to come to that rep visit. If it's okay with the teacher, if you don't have a test scheduled, if you don't have a big presentation you're trying to skip out on, and they will sign that pass, you come down to the CRC, and it'll be an excused absence during that admission rep visit. Right? So starting in the fall of next year, early on, we want you on the college visit page, looking through what colleges will be visiting, the days they're visiting, and plan ahead so you can check in with these teachers and be excused from the class to come down to the CRC and meet with them. The last thing we're going to look at today, for my part, is going to be the resume. So the resume section on Naviance is brand new, so it's a little different. We're going to walk you through some sections. Why do you have a resume now as a junior in high school? There's a couple things. Applying for jobs, right? Sometimes they're going to be asking you for a resume. When we're writing guidance, counseling, recommendation letters for you next year, we want you to include a resume as part of your portfolio you give to us. For college applications, sometimes they ask you to link a resume as part of your application. So if you have an updated resume with all your activities throughout your 3+ years of high school, that's going to just make one step easier for you. So for the resume section, you're going to go to the About Me link, you're going to select Home, and then you're going to select Resume. So if you scroll, Ms. Hodgkin will scroll down, there's a bunch of different sections already that we created. This is a fake account here, but you can see activities are on there, volunteer opportunities the student did, any jobs that they've had in the past, athletics they've been involved with, references you can list down here. So this is a great way to keep track of everything you've done throughout high school, have it in one section right up on that resume page. To format the resume, there's a couple different things. So you can add different sections to the resume that aren't currently on here. You would click on that pink plus button, and then you would pick whatever section that you want to add a piece to, click on it, enter the information, save it, and now that's going to show up on the resume homepage. To save and print a resume, what you're going to do is going to go onto the Print Export Resume section up top. Then you're going to click on that pink plus button, and it's going to ask you to name the resume. So if we name it Junior Year Resume, that's pretty easy. And then from there, it's going to ask you to pick a template. So you can go through the templates, see which one looks best for you. Once you pick a template, you'll hit Continue. From there, you're going to be able to pick individual sections on the resume that you want to include on that specific one you're saving now. So maybe for a potential job, you want to highlight past jobs that you've had and maybe not put in all of the activities you've done at school. For your college one, maybe you want to gear it a different way, but they're going to let you click through and choose individual sections on that resume, and from there you can save it right at the bottom, and it's going to give you the option to print that resume or save that resume as a Word document or as a PDF, okay? So if you keep an updated resume as you go, and you can start now, once you get to senior year and they're asking you for resumes for guidance counselor recommendations, for college applications, for potential internships or jobs, that resume will be saved on Naviance, ready to go. All you do is proofread it, print it, and then you're good, okay? So now up is going to be Ms. Mulcahy. She's going to talk about letters of recommendation.
All right. So recommendations are a key part of the application process because it gives the colleges insight into how you work in the classroom. So it's information that they're not able to see directly from your application, but rather, it comes directly from the teacher. So before leaving for summer, students should ask one of your junior year teachers, one of your academic teachers, if they would be willing to write a letter of recommendation for you in the fall. The reason we suggest junior teachers is because they've likely seen you work at a higher level course, and they can also speak to your current academic achievement, which is the most relevant for when you're applying to college. So maybe you've had a teacher for more than once. This is also someone that you might want to think about asking for a letter. They can speak about your growth in the classroom. Maybe you had them freshman year and then you've also had them this year. You've probably grown a lot since freshman year, so this would be a good person to think about asking for a letter of recommendation. You also maybe want to consider your potential major when asking a teacher for a letter, and think about asking a teacher from a related discipline. So for example, if you're interested in majoring in engineering, possibly think about asking your science or your math teacher. The teacher also doesn't necessarily need to be from a class where you have an A, and it's an easy class for you, but maybe there's a course that you've worked really hard in and you really worked hard for that B. You've stayed after school with a teacher for extra help, and your grade has, maybe improved a lot since first quarter. So that teacher would be able to speak about your drive and your work ethic, which would make for a great letter that a college would like to read. So if you're asking for more than one teacher for a letter of recommendation, make sure they're from different disciplines. And you really only need to ask 2 teachers if the college requires that. So it's important when you're building your list that you look to see how many recommendations each college requires, because really you only need 2 if a school requires that. So after a teacher has agreed to write your letter of recommendation, there are a few steps that you'll have to take. So you'll need to complete the teacher recommendation form, which can be accessed in one of 3 ways. So it can be found in the document resources section on Naviance. So it's found at the bottom of the screen of your homepage on Naviance. So click on the college recommendation forms, and then you'll see the link to the teacher recommendation form. So it's important to fill this out very detailed and give as much information as possible in order to assist the teacher in writing your letter. So not only should you provide details, but also examples. So maybe there was a project that you worked really hard in, a presentation that you felt you really improved on. So those are things that you want to write in your the teacher letter recommendation form. There's 2 other ways that you can find this form. So it is also found in your Google Drive. And so when we go back to the home page of Naviance, so it's found right there. So there's a link that's shared right on the Naviance homepage, and it'll bring you right to the recommendation form. And you can also search for the form in your Google Drive as it is a shared document. So you want to save this form in a place where you'll be able to access it. So either, right on your computer or in Google Docs. And we'll provide further information in the fall on how to process these forms with your teachers. Some teachers may have their own forms, so follow the preferences of your teachers and when they would like these returned. So when you ask a teacher before you leave for the summer, they may want the form before you leave, or they may want it when you come back in the fall. So it depends on whether they're writing over the summer or not. When asking a teacher for a letter of recommendation, we ask that you do this in person and not during class. So you can find them before school or after school, or maybe even in between some passing time if you have the time, but do not do it during class. So on to the guidance recommendation. So the guidance counselor recommendation will highlight your academic performance, some personal characteristics, and also extracurricular activities that will be sent to all the schools that you apply to. So similar to the teacher recommendation, you must complete the guidance counselor recommendation form. So when you return in the fall, you will need to email a copy of your counselor recommendation form, the parent brag sheet, and your resume to your counselor. So parents, we ask that you fill out the brag sheet so we're able to write the most well-rounded recommendation that we can for your student. Sometimes we find that students have a hard time bragging about themselves, but parents don't have a hard time bragging about their kids, which we appreciate. So this brag sheet is found in the document library as well. And just like the teacher recommendation, the guidance recommendation is accessed in the same 3 ways. And again, please provide us with as much detailed information as possible. The more information you give to us, the more we're able to tell colleges about you, and we're able to give them better insight into who you are. So help us help you and provide a lot of details. In the counselors, typically we meet with you guys when you hand in these forms eventually when we talk about, your college plans. And we'll go through the form together. But so please provide us with your recommendation form, a detailed recommendation form, the parent brag sheet, and then your resume that goes over everything that you've done since you were a freshman student. So that's about it for recommendations. So now Mr. Lassard will talk about applications.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about the application and admissions part. So first off, I'm going to talk about things you can do this summer. So I promise all of you, summer's going to go by quick. It goes by quick every single year. It's going to be September before you know it. And once September arrives, you're going to have to juggle all your new classes senior year and the entire application process. So what can you do now? What can you do over the summer? And I highly, highly recommend that you get what you can do done over summer this summer, because sometimes students wait, and then it's a lot when it comes to the fall. So let's see if this works. Oh, good. So I recommend that you stay informed and organized this summer and get what you can get done. So what are some of those things? First, as Ms. Connery said and Mr. Breglio already said, you should continue to do some visits and finalize that list of schools. When you're doing visits, are you asking questions like, what do they need from you? For instance, do they require an interview? Do they need a portfolio? Do you have to have the SATs, the ACTs? Do you need a subject test? You should know that information, so then you're prepared to either take those exams or have that portfolio ready and have you started those things during the summer. One of the most challenging things for students is going to be the essay. So we highly, highly recommend that you finish a rough draft this summer. All right, so Ms. Mulcahy also talked about the recommendation forms. You have a counselor recommendation form. You have a teacher recommendation form. Those things are easy for you to fill out. You can get those things done this summer. It's 2 less things that you have to worry about when you come start school in the fall. So the actual application itself, you can actually open up the common application and create one August 1st. But depending on the schools you're applying to depends on the type of application. So I'm just going to show you something that you'll all use. So you're going to create that list of schools, and you're going to do that this summer, and you're going to start finalizing that list. So when you click on college I'm thinking about, you'll actually be able to see delivery type, and you'll see a little monitor right there. So when that monitor has a CA in it, it means it accepts the common application. If the monitor is blank, that means you apply directly to that institution. So you would go to their website and click Apply Now or whatever it may be, and you would start an application through that website. So if you have 2 or more schools that have a CA, we recommend you do the common application and fill that out. So clearly, if this was our list, we would highly recommend that you fill out the common application. So with that being said, if you apply directly to an institution, so let's hypothesize and say most of these schools require directly to an institution, you will want to go to those school websites and see what their essay question is. Because the common application essay questions might not necessarily match to the school's essay questions. So what I mean by that is if you pick an essay prompt, one of the Common App essay prompts, and then when you go to apply to all your schools, maybe there's only 3 schools that are Common App and the other 4 are not Common App. So now you may have answered an essay question that's not accepted to those 4 other schools. So you want to make sure that you look at the schools, look at the essay questions, the essay prompts, and you're only writing 1 essay. All right, so double check that information when you do that. So again, you can create the Common App August 1st. That doesn't mean you have to fill out the entire application. There's some simple things you can go through, like your name, your address, some parent information. But we will have workshops, as Ms. Connery mentioned, in the first couple of weeks of September. And we go through the entire application process. We show you things. We'll show you how to answer some difficult questions or some challenging things that might come up. So I encourage you, before sending anything, definitely wait until we do that workshop. And if for some reason it's the middle of August and you feel like your application is done, definitely contact your counselor before you decide to submit anything. Let us know before you submit any applications. So another thing, there's a couple of components of the actual application. So just to be clear, I'm going to go over what you're responsible for and then what the guidance and teachers are responsible for. So you're responsible for the applications, themselves, the supplements, the essay, and the fee. You're also responsible for, and this is the number one thing students forget, is sending your test scores. So that means that if you take the SAT, you have to use that same username and login that you created to register for the test, to view the scores. You also have to log in to send the scores to those institutions. So you're responsible for that. Also, just keep in mind, when you register for those exams, you can send those scores automatically to schools. You get 4 free schools you can pick, but you have to choose those schools before you get your actual scores. So if on your list you have a couple safety schools and you feel confident about taking the test, you could submit, maybe put those safety schools on your list and automatically have those scores sent for free. We will send your transcript, your school profile, secondary school report as well. Your teacher will send their teacher recommendation form. Send your teacher recommendation. But you will need to give them the form in order for them to submit your teacher recommendation. Same with the counselor. We send your recommendation for you, but you need to give us that form. You need to be responsible for your deadlines and when you're applying. On here, you can see Curry College, we have early action, December 1st, November 15th. You need to let your teachers know those dates. You need to let your counselors know those dates. Those dates need to be updated. So if you don't tell us the right dates, then we're not going to be prepared to send at the right time. So you need to make sure everyone's on board with the dates. All right. So another piece, you will have this workbook. It's available online. So there's a page 9 that in the workbooks that parents will see. This is important information. This information will be required for every application you go on to. So I promise you, you'll need all of this. So maybe pin this up on the fridge or whatever it is, but save this page. You can go on the website. It's page 9. As far as the college essay goes, again, I recommend that you finish a draft this summer. Let's face it, the application process, you submit your transcripts, you submit your test scores, you have your GPA, so you have all these different numbers, but the schools don't know much about you. The essay is the opportunity for you to express to the college who you are. This is your opportunity to shine. This is a little bit different than the rest of the application. So take your time with this. Be thoughtful, all right? Don't rush it. We have on this sheet, we have all the different essay prompts. So for the Common App, all the essay prompts are out. But again, I recommend you look at all your schools, see if there's any other essay prompts out there. As far as the essay tips themselves, in the workbook, we put together a whole slew of tips for you. I'm going to highlight just a couple that I think are important. Number 1 is be yourself. So sometimes, people try to force an essay, like, oh, I've heard like you need to be really clever and funny. Well, maybe that's not who you, maybe you're not just going to write a super funny essay because you're not funny all the time. Maybe you're a little bit more serious. That's okay. So write something a little bit more serious, but be true to who you are. So if you're funny, cracking jokes all the time, then yeah, definitely go with it. So tell us something different, all right? So from what we'll read on your extracurricular list. So if you send your college a resume, and on your resume you talk about X, Y, and Z, and then also your counselor, maybe in the recommendation, you want them to highlight that thing as well, and then it's also in the teacher rec, and then it's also on your essay. That's a bit repetitive, so you want to make sure the essay is a little bit different and expresses a different side of you. Limit the number of people who look at your essay. So sometimes there's maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, so you have like a friend read it, an uncle read it, a parent read it, you have 2 teachers read it, and all of a sudden there's all these minds kind of editing your essay. It's almost lost your own voice at that point. So keep in mind with that. And the last thing I'm going to say, make it about you. I often read essays, and maybe they're talking about a grandparent that influenced them, or maybe an event that happened, but the entire essay becomes about this other person or about the event. It has to tell a stranger who you are. So if someone new read this essay who doesn't know you, they need to know more about you, not about maybe the event itself, or maybe not about that grandparent or whoever it is. They need to know who you are. That's what they care about. So I'm going to actually pass the mic to Ms. Hutchins now. She's going to go over interviews.
Okay, good morning. Hi, everyone. I am going to talk to you today about the college interview. So this is your time to tell your story and to put a face to your application. Many of the small private schools will offer the option of an interview. A few schools require the interview. The big public institutions, they will not be able to offer you an interview just because of the sheer volume of the applications that they have to process. So how do you know when you're formulating your list of schools, which ones offer interviews? So when you're getting your list together and you're figuring out your travel plans this summer, you have to go on to each school's website, go on the admissions page, go into the campus visits. That is where you're going to know if they have a campus tour, an information session, and an interview. All three of those are options at some schools, but you have to sign up for each one of those things separately. This is my best recommendation I can give you. If you are traveling, you're going on a road trip, and you're going to go visit schools, sign up for the tour and the information interview earlier in the day. Take your interview in the afternoon or after those. This is why. You're going to get on campus, you're going to walk around, you're going to hear some information, you're going to get excited about the school. You're going to naturally have questions about things. And you're going to be able to use all of that in your interview later on. When they ask you, why are you interested in this school? It's naturally going to flow. You're going to have that excitement in your voice, and it's going to show. And you're going to naturally have some questions to ask. If you're visiting a local school, something you can drive to around here, and we have lots of those, go this summer and take the tour and take the information session. And then once you narrow down your final list, if that school is on the list, then go ahead and think about if you want to have the interview. If you're applying to a school and it's a reach or a target school for you, you may want to have the interview. If they have on their website that they highly recommend you have an interview, or interviews are suggested, you're going to want to have that interview. If they don't have that on there and they're like, it's optional and it's just informational for you, and it's a safety school, you can make that decision at that time if you actually want to have the interview. So now you have your list of schools, you're ready, you know which ones have interviews. You can prepare for the interview. Interviewing, I say, is the art of interviewing can be prepared for. The more you do it, the better you are. The more you're prepared, the better you're going to come off. So what can you do to prepare? The first thing you can do is do your homework. Get on the website and check out the major that you're interested in. Check out the activities that they have. If you're interested in biology, for example, and they are going to have a website about the biology major and all the classes you're going to take, and they're going to want to, this is sales for them. They want to tell you everything they have that they offer. They're going to want to highlight some of their special programs. If they have this awesome program that's in Spain where you spend 5 weeks taking classes and then 5 weeks working on a practical experience, you're going to want to ask about that and how competitive is it and how can you be part of that. You want to look into the activities. If you're interested in law, you're going to want to make sure that they have a moot court or they have mock trial. You want to know if this mock trial team is so good that they go overseas every year, you're going to talk about that. It's going to be on their website because they're going to want to tell you about it. As you're looking through the activities that you want to make sure are there for you, you might run across some other funny ones like cannoli club, outdoors club, or even the fact that they make their own ice cream. And then you can talk to that, and it shows them that you prepared for this interview. Also, I always tell everyone, take a folder, and in the folder, take 3 things. 1, take your transcript. Students, in iPass, in iStudent, you can print out an unofficial transcript. This is really going to be for your use. You want to be able to tell them what classes you've taken and how you've done. You want to print your resume, and you want to put that in there too. You want to speak to all of the things that you have done in school. Do not be shy about this. Extracurriculars, sports. You want to talk also about your community service, your work experience, everything that you have done in your entire high school experience. I'm going to caution you about a couple things now. We use a lot of acronyms in education. We all know what we're talking about. You could be sitting across the table from an admissions rep, from a rising senior that's at that school, or an alumni. They may not know what DECA is. If they're a sociology major, they may have never taken anything to do with business. Make sure you explain everything. They may not realize how involved DECA is and what you've actually done. Again, if you're sitting across the table from an older alumni, they may not know what Best Buddies is, and they may not know how great that is. So you need to explain those things to them. So now you have your transcript and your resume. The last thing I recommend is that you write down your questions. 2 things for this. You're prepared, and it shows them that you took the time to get ready for this interview. And also, you don't have to think about your questions. It's going to be the last question in any interview. Do you have any more questions for me? And you can go, I do. I made a list because I wanted to make sure that I had my questions answered. You answered some of them, but you didn't answer this one. Could you take some time to answer that? Thank you very much. You don't have to worry about it. You can be present during the interview, and you're not always thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to ask? What am I going to ask? Because it's going to come. I do want to spend a little bit when we're talking about preparation and talk to you about interview etiquette. How do you dress for an interview? It's going to be summer. You're going to be hot. I just took my son this past summer on a college road trip. We went to we went to Virginia, and it was 106 degrees. It was stifling. But you still need to dress to impress. The guys, I'm going to suggest that you wear khaki shorts and a button-down shirt. For the ladies, I'm going to say keep it conservative. You want to make a positive impression. You want to dress business casual, nothing too short. Along those same lines, no gum chewing during the interview, and no cell phones out at all during an interview. Turn them off, put them away, better yet, give them to your parents. You don't want any buzzing going on in the interview. You don't want your phone lighting up. You don't want your phone ringing. Now you're ready for the interview. You prepared for it, you're there. What do? The first thing you do is you look the person in the eye, you give them a firm handshake. You don't want to crush their hand, but you want it to be firm. You want to smile, and you want to look them directly in the eye. Then you're going to sit down and begin the interview. The first question they're going to ask you in an interview is probably the first question you will be asked in any interview. You are going to want to ask them, they're going to say to you, so tell me a little bit about yourself and why are you here today? In business, they call this the elevator pitch. This is 30 seconds to a minute of what you're going to say. So it's going to go something roughly like this. Hi, my name is Linda Hutchins. I'm a rising senior at Algonquin Regional High School. I've taken challenging courses, and I feel like I'm ready for college. I've tried to get involved in my community and my high school. Name 2 or 3 things that you've been really involved in. This is not the time to give them the bucket list. Then you want to go on to say, I'm really interested in the medical field. I've looked it over, and I'm excited about your biology program, and I'm here today to learn more about that. And then you want to stop. You want to pause. You want to keep looking at them, have good eye contact, and you want to smile. Silence is okay. They're probably just getting ready to give you the next question. It shows confidence that you know you've said what you wanted to say, and now you're ready for them to talk. Other questions you may be asked in an interview are listed on page 13. I'm just going to go over 2 of them. One, maybe name an obstacle that you've encountered and how you overcame it. I always call this question, this is taking lemons and making lemonade. This is what they want from you. They want to hear why. What in your life was adversity, and how did you overcome it, and what did you do to make it okay? Another question that stumps kids when they do interviews, who would you like to have lunch with, dead or alive, if you could have lunch with anyone? And I've had many students say, oh my gosh, what a tough question. It's okay to say that in an interview. Wow, that is such a tough question. I have so many things going through my head right now. But if I had to pick one person right now, this is who I would pick, and this is why. The important part of that question is why. So you're going to keep going through the interview, you're going to ask them your questions, then at the very end, you're going to stand up, you're going to shake their hand, and you're going to say thank you again. The last thing you need to do, you're going to leave, you're going to feel great, hopefully you had a great interview, you're feeling good that it's over, you got to send a thank you note. It can be an email. You should normally send it between 24 and 48 hours after the interview, if you can. If you're traveling, it may be a bit longer. But it needs to be formal. Dear Mr. Smith, thank you for meeting with me today. Your information was very helpful. I appreciated learning about whatever it was. Thank you again for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Linda Hutchins. You want it to be formal. You want it to be full sentences. You do not want it to be a text. The last thing I'm going to say about interviewing. Interviewing, along with the informational sessions and the college tours, all show demonstrated interest. Some schools track that. Not many, but there are a couple. BU tracks demonstrated interest still, if you can believe it. At Holy Cross tracks demonstrated interest. Providence tracks demonstrated interest. There are schools out there that track that. You want to make sure if they offer an interview, that's one more way to show them that you're interested in that school. Again, we have given you the worksheet. Page 13, it's going to give you suggestions of questions to ask and suggestions of questions that they will ask you. Do your homework, be prepared, you'll be more confident, and you'll have a good experience. Now I'm going to turn the mic over to Mrs. Haberman, and she's going to talk to you about the NCAA and financial aid.
Okay. Hello? Oh, there we go. All right, students, my wonderful juniors all sitting there. Raise your hand, not yet, wait for the question. Okay, Jack, you just answered the question by raising your hand. Is Jack's mother here? Okay, so Jack just raised his hand before I asked the question. My question, Jack, was how many of you are paying for college all on your own? So Jack just took his mom and dad off. They're going to be able to go off on a nice vacation because parents of Jack, he's going to pay for college on his own. Now, for most of you, you are not planning on paying for college on your own. And you might not really have thought about this. For a lot of your parents, you may not have started talking to your children yet about financial aid. This is the time that you all need to communicate with each other. Because let's say a student is loving Holy Cross. It is their most favorite college, absolutely #1. That is awesome. You also need to really think about, after 4 years at a college, how much debt do you want to come out with? 0. That is a great answer. And the other thing to think about when it comes to financial aid and costs is how, when you are looking at your colleges, which colleges might give you free money? If you get free money, they give you, say, $20,000 a year, all of a sudden your cost goes down. So how do you get this money? How do you figure out financial aid? How many of you parents, this is the first time going through college with your student, with a student? I got a lot of newbies. Okay, so all of parents and students, the very first thing you want to do, and you can do this anytime, is you want to go on something called the FAFSA, which is the free application, I don't know, it stands for something. You go on to the FAFSA website, and we have that listed on the website. It's listed in your booklets. You never, ever, ever want to pay on a site to fill out the FAFSA form. It is a free form through the government. It's the only time you get something for free. Before you can fill out the application, your parent and student needs a PIN number. So that is the very first thing you need to apply for is a PIN number. Students, Jack, where are you, Jack, my man? Okay, once Jack gets that PIN number, that will be a number, sort of like your Social Security number, that you keep forever. Because every year, you've got to reapply for financial aid. The FAFSA for 2019, what are we, 2019, 20, right? The fall of when you guys are going to college, that FAFSA will be up and ready for you, for your parents to fully fill out beginning October 1st. You cannot fill it out before October 1st. However, you can go to the FAFSA website. They have all sorts of great information, and you can start looking. You can do a FAFSA calculator. Part of the decision that we spent a lot of time with our seniors is deciding which college to go to based not only on what they had for a student and how much the student liked it, but also what kind of money, how much was it going to cost. So you can't start it until October 1st. In October, we will be having for parents in the evening a full workshop on financial aid through MEFA. MEFA.org is the Massachusetts Education Finance Authority, and they have great information about all kinds of financial aid. One thing for students and parents to really understand about financial aid, it cannot hurt you to apply, even if you think you might not get it. Sometimes you need to do a financial aid form for scholarships. But most importantly, as you're looking at your college deadlines, you also have to be aware of your financial aid deadlines. You don't want to be sitting there in April deciding on a school and realize that you missed the financial aid deadline, because that means there is no money available for you. So parents, this is where I want you to make up nice Excel spreadsheets. Check your deadlines for the colleges that your student is in charge of understanding, and look at your financial aid deadlines. With that, all schools require a FAFSA. Some schools, especially schools like a BU, a Holy Cross, a BC, just to name some locally, require another financial aid form. That is called the CSS profile. That is put out by the same horrible people who put out SATs and APs. Now that form, you do get to pay for in order to put in to request financial aid. It is a much more detailed form. Typically that form, schools that have that form, you are going to put that in before earlier than like a traditional public school that just says financial aid forms need to be due in April. So again, it's real important to watch those deadlines. And some schools have their own form. We have talked to you juniors about how you will become experts in the colleges, the 6 to 8 colleges that you're going to apply for. This is when, unless you're like Jack, who's paying for college all on his own, this is when you need to have a conversation with your parents, because you need to know how much it's going to cost and what you are going to need. And this is where, when you look at those wonderful scattergrams on Naviance, if you see that your GPA and your test scores are higher than the average of the accepted student, that means you might get free money. Free money is awesome, because free money means that you do not have to come out with loans. You do not have to live in your parents' basement until you're 30 and have to go to court to kick you out. Anybody hear that one? Right. Okay. That's all right now I'm going to talk about with financial aid. How many of you students are thinking of playing a Division I or Division II sport? Okay, those students, Jack, there you go. Man, Jack is the man. All right, Division I, Division II athletes. Quiet, please. Quiet, please. If you are planning on playing Division I, Division II, let's say you're even thinking Division III, but you might be looking at Division II, you want to go to the NCAA site, because that is where you need to register. You can do this now. You need to fill out a profile. One thing, when I was on their site, they will be asking you for an email address, because they will be emailing you with certain important information. Use an email address for all your college stuff that is something that you are going to check. Yes, it gets annoying, and I know you guys don't really like to check and read email, but it's important, because you do not want to miss certain deadlines. You want to be sure that you are meeting all the criteria. In the back of the book, there is information on the NCAA, but really the most important thing is filling out those forms. You will need to send them, you will need to log in so that we can send transcripts through the clearinghouse, and all that information is on NCAA site, and you will talk to your counselor as we're going through the process. For my Division I, Division II athletes, it is very, very important not to 100% believe the coach. Years ago, when I first started here, I had a student burned big time. And so and guidance will always play the bad guy for you guys. I want you to be sure that you can get into the college, that you have that admissions offer from college, from the admissions office, before you are signing and taking yourself off the list for other schools. I had a student years and years ago, and we were scrambling the middle of third term because the college still had not given that student admittance, even though the coach was saying, yeah, no problem. And the student had taken themselves off of all other colleges that were looking at this student, who was a Division I athlete. The student did eventually get into that school, but we will play the bad guys for you, okay? If you like the coach, that's great. You want to make sure you like the school. You want to make sure you like the school, even if something happens and you cannot play the sport there. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, how are we doing on time? Sweet. We want what? Q&A. Woohoo! Anybody got any questions? Okay, hold on, guys. We already had one question. The question was, tell us about an information session. What information sessions do is they give you an overview of what the college is looking at from admissions standpoint. The college will also do a lot of great sales job on how wonderful they are, what kind of events, what kind of things they have. Information sessions overall tend to be very similar, and after a while, they all sound the same. But it's important to understand what are your averages in terms of GPAs and things like that.
All right, so if you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll bring the mic to you. Question, parents?
I was curious, in terms of college admissions, how does it look if you have a really high SAT score but a somewhat midway GPA or low GPA?
That's a great question. All right, would you guys like to know the answer? All right, I'll tell you the answer. If your test scores are great and your GPA is not so great, what a college might want to look at is how are you doing that senior year? Have you been experiencing growth? Was there something that impacted your academics? On the flip side, let's say your GPA is great and your test scores are not. Depending on the college, as we said, there's over 1,000 colleges that are test optional. So that's why, because one test does not determine who you are. So better GPA, that's awesome. If you got good test scores, then you want to be sure that your GPA also is rising up. Any other questions?
Do you have any general advice on what to write your college essay on?
Yes, I do. You will see that there's 5 or 6 prompts on the Common App. Most of you are going to apply to at least one Common App school. Use that prompt to start thinking about what's important to you. The most important thing in an essay can be about the junk that you keep under your bed. If it shares information that tells the college who you are, what do you care about? Rather see something like that, or the best cereal that you eat every morning, versus how important going on a mission trip was, and then not really giving any information about yourself.
So is there any way to get our cumulative GPA earlier than the first 2 weeks of senior year?
Yes.
How?
Okay, the way when you get your final report card, we will have your cumulative GPA on that. If your, guys, quiet please. If you have no grade changes, if all your grades are complete, that will be your GPA that you will be reporting to colleges. Remember too, colleges will be looking at what you're taking senior year, your first quarter grades, most likely your mid-year grades, and hi girls, how are you? Okay, the colleges, as we are talking to our seniors now, any acceptance is a conditional acceptance, which means that you send your transcript, you are accepted. You send your first quarter grades, they are great. Your mid-year grades are great. Then you decide to go to Bermuda for a month. You forget to come to school. Your final grades, that final transcript we send to colleges, is not anything close to what you said you were going to do. That college will pull your acceptance, may make you pay extra to do a summer program, may put you on probation. So I'm telling you this now because we had to talk to quite a few seniors this year about this same thing. So you want to be careful.
So, if you got below 1,000 on the SAT, will the colleges like not look at you or think that's bad?
All right, that is actually an awesome question because some people do not test well. That is when you look at your list of colleges. If you are like me who cannot do math, and when I was in high school, long time ago, when dinosaurs were roaming the earth, I might have gotten a 450 on my math, and you got 200 points for just putting your name on it. However, it didn't keep me from going to college. You want to look at where your GPA is, where your test scores are in relation to that college's acceptance rate. So there are over 5,000 colleges within the United States, Canada, and Guam, and the Virgin Islands. So there is a school. You guys got to be looking at the right fit.
Well, and I think on top of that, there's over 1,000 who don't require test scores as part of the admissions process, guys, okay? So they're considered test optional, all right? To answer your question, no. Under 1,000 on the SAT does not mean that the college will not read your application, okay? They're gonna read you holistically, all right?
Is it too early to ask a teacher for a recommendation?
It is not too early to ask teachers for recommendations. I think that we actually were talking about that. Ms. Mulcahy was talking about that. And I think we encouraged you to ask. Listen up, guys. I think this might be why we didn't hear it the first time. I'm not sure. So listen up. This is important because this is something you're going to need to do before you leave for the summer, all right? So most of you will need to ask at least one teacher to write you a letter of recommendation. You should speak to that teacher before you leave for the summer, okay? You want to think about your potential major, all right? And consider core academic teachers. So it's math, it's science, it's English, it's history, it's world language. Doesn't necessarily have to be a class that you've gotten an A in, all right? Could be a teacher who you feel knows you well, where maybe you've struggled a little bit in the class. You've had to stay after with them. Maybe you got a tutor, right, just to improve your grade. Because really what colleges want to see is they're not looking for perfection. They want to see that when you are challenged at their school, what are you going to do? Are you just going to drop out of the class? You're going to rise to the occasion? You're going to seek out the academic resource center? Are you going to get help, see your professor? So when you're thinking about who's going to write your letter, remember it doesn't just it's not about an A in the class. Teacher who knows you well, minimally one core academic teacher. Some students who are applying to more rigorous schools might need two.
One word of advice to you guys on asking a teacher for a letter of recommendation. Ms. Hutchins actually made a good point about when you're doing an interview, how to approach things, how to ask. You don't stand up in the middle of a class when the teacher is teaching a lesson and say, "Yo, Moulton, will you write me a letter of recommendation?" That is not the way to ask, Haley. Okay, so you want to wait until at a time where that teacher is maybe after school, just finishing up, not the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, okay? You don't have to rush out of here right now and go ask your teacher. But some teachers, a lot of teachers, will limit how many kids they will write for. This is above and beyond their regular teaching duties. So you want to respect them, you want to ask them nicely, you want to make sure it's a good fit for you, you want to find out, Do they have their own form? Do they want to use the form we have on Naviance? How do they want you to give them the form? When do they want it? You will check in with them next year. And most importantly, you will thank them and keep them updated on what you hear afterwards. Best thing I ever get is those thank you cards from students. Teachers are doing this because they want you to succeed. They are not doing this because they are paid for that. This is above and beyond. They spend their weekends, they spend their Saturday mornings, their nights, writing good recommendations for you. This is when you put some thought into that recommendation form. And that's my lecture for now.
Yeah. I think, too, we're very tech-driven nowadays, so I would encourage you to have a face-to-face conversation with your teacher versus just sending them an email. I think our natural inclination now is just to correspond via text or email. But I would encourage you, especially given that, you know, the teacher is extending themselves to help you, that you take the time to stay after school or after class to have a face-to-face conversation with them, all right? And make sure you thank them.
Okay, we got another question.
So if I get one recommendation from a junior year teacher, can I get one from a sophomore year teacher as well, just in addition?
Yes, most of you will only need one letter of recommendation, okay? And so we do want one recommendation from a junior core teacher. If you did have a sophomore teacher that you feel knows you well, then you could supplement with that. But again, remember, you're only going to need, most of you are only going to need one letter, okay? So we want to make sure that, you know, we're not kind of overwhelming the teachers with a lot of requests for letters.
What's the application process like for an honors program at a college?
That is up to each college. So that is where you look into what the college wants. Most colleges don't have a specific, but each college is separate. That's where we need you guys to be the experts. All right, I think we got time for, it's about 9 o'clock, Mrs. Connery.
What time is it, Dana? Thank you. So we have time for one more question.
Does it matter like what recommendations you get like for a certain major that you want? Like, should you get it from a certain teacher?
Okay. All right, that is absolutely a great question. It really will depend on which college, what the college wants. That's why we keep going back to you guys have got to do the research on the colleges. A lot of engineering programs in colleges want a math and or a science. You will start looking at your college information and see that a college will only accept one recommendation. So please don't go asking 5 teachers to write recommendations for you. So you look at the colleges that you are thinking of, and at least before you leave here, get one teacher signed up to write for you. If you are going into a science or a math or something, yes, a lot of times they will want that. But again, you got to look at the colleges.
All right, guys, I think so. We're gonna release just a couple minutes early because we do have another presentation that's happening here in the halls. Wait, hold on. Let's see. Have a seat. Okay, so we will be emailing to parents and students a PDF of the workbook. I would encourage you to print it out, to keep it on your desk. You're going to be utilizing this information throughout the summer. I cannot encourage you enough to plan accordingly and make sure that you're completing some of the forms, writing a rough draft of your essay. Guys, listen. Let's listen up because we're going to be going away for the summer too, all right? So, complete your forms, your teacher recommendation guidance counselor form, your resume. You're going to need to have a rough draft of your essay. In the workbook are the essay prompts for the Common App for this year. In August, open up a Common App and begin adding schools that you think you would like to, that you're going to be applying to. Make sure you're communicating with your parents and planning any final visits. You want to make sure you're doing all of this because the fall will be stressful as you're coming into senior year, participating in athletics, maybe working, all right? So you really need to plan accordingly. We hope you guys have a great summer. If you have any questions, feel free to come by and see us.